Hi, friends. Gene Valentino, and welcome back to another episode of Gene Valentino's GrassRoots Truthcast. We have guests on from all walks of life: political, social, business, industrial, people from the clergy. We do things from all aspects of life and try to stay attuned to where things are and where they're going. We've had a very busy week. We're recording now, January 21st, 2026, and oh boy, talk about drinking out of a fire hose. Man, we've had more events going even as this recording is underway. But we'll come to that with our special guest. Our guest this week is Bob McEwen, former U.S. Congressman, 6 terms, 12 years. Hey, Bob, how you doing?
It's great to be with you, Gene. Thank you. I'm doing great.
Our paths have crossed since I was invited into a conservative think tank group, which I'm very privileged to be part of, called Council for National Policy. It's where I learned about some of the thinking of conservatism and why I'm definitely in a conservative camp and am part of the community that's helping to foster responsible governance throughout the United States. Bob and his background, he's now executive director of CNP, and we're going to get into, more importantly, a lot of the policies, a lot of the events that have occurred literally in the last few weeks throughout the United States, and now, as we're talking, in Davos, Switzerland, where President Trump is abroad. We're doing all that when we return right after this.
Hello, everyone. Please keep supporting Gene Valentino's Truth Podcast. We need our voice to get out there far and wide and help save our country.
Hi, friends. Gene Valentino for My Pillow. You know, this past year has been one of the hardest in My Pillow's history. It's because of you that they are making it through, though. They want to thank you for your continued support by passing on some Christmas specials to all listeners and viewers. Did you know you can get the Children's Bible Story Pillow 5-pack for $29.98, or My Slippers with a free bottle of leather protectant spray for just $39.98? Or how about the blankets, the comforters, and the duvets for as low as $25, and a blowout sale on the standard My Pillows for just $14.98? So go to mypillow.com or call 1-800-589-4706 and use the promo code. Don't forget the promo code. Use the promo code GeneV to take advantage of these wholesale prices, including standard size My Pillow, originally $49.98, now only $14.98. The queen size, $18.99, or kings, only $1 more. We know My Pillow products come with a 10-year warranty, but My Pillow has just announced that they're extending their 60-day money-back guarantee. That's right. Orders placed between now and December 25th will have a 60-day money-back guarantee extended through March 1st, 2026. Let's get on board with My Pillow. They've been there for America. Let's get there for My Pillow. Hi, friends. Welcome back to the GrassRoots Truthcast, and my guest again is Bob McEwen, former U.S. Congressman and Executive Director of the Council for National Policy. Bob, welcome aboard. I'm so excited to have you with us this week on the show. You might want to talk about how our paths crossed. I remember exactly when we first met, but it was at the Council of National Policy. You and I both. I'm proud to be a member of, and you're head of it. And it was from your introduction to so many first-class people throughout the United States that choose to stay anonymous, and that's what it should be. But they've contributed so much to conservatism and what I'd consider the policy makers having influence over the policies of this nation.
Yeah, well, CNP is unique in that it is an outgrowth of the conflict in the 1980 presidential campaign between the establishment folk and the Reagan folk. And the establishment folk weren't carrying their a degree of the weight. They were leaving everything on Reagan. Not many people remember all this. He was so despised, just like Donald Trump is, because he beat Jimmy Carter, and that was their hero. And he only had 18% inflation and 22% interest rates, and only one plane in three could fly, and only one ship in three in the Navy could sail. He was just literally one of the most incompetent people. One of the two most worst presidents we've ever had, but that's another topic. Nevertheless, he was such a vehicle for the liberals that when Reagan beat him, they were really, really mad. And so they decided that the friends that were supportive of Ronald Reagan, to get people together. And you have all these wonderful folks that are concerned about life, concerned about economics, concerned about national defense, concerned about cultural issues, foreign policy, but they're all in their own little silos. And they said, we need something that brings them together, that doesn't compete with them, but brings them together, like the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce doesn't sell shoes, but it has people who do. And it doesn't sell cars, but it has people who do. It doesn't sell houses, but it has people who do. And that's what CMP was, the Council for National Policy, the folks that are the specialists in the National Rifle Association, or in the Heritage Foundation, or in Judicial Watch, or all the things that people are doing great things. There needs to be one place where they come together. They don't take orders from each other because they're all equals. So they need an umbrella organization that also doesn't compete with them. And so the way I get attention, I tell people CMP doesn't do anything. And then I said, however, it has members that do everything. And so what we do is get together 3 times a year in order to bolster each other, who's doing what. Of course, there's going to be a great deal of focus on we're going to have the head of the Department of Homeland Security, and also, as Jack Holman has spoken with ICE, as to how the left is able to use that to take down, in these sanctuary cities, to take down the rule of law. And so CMP is able to bring those people together to accomplish that. And it has a handful of business leaders as well, not just the heads of organizations, but people such as yourself, Gene, that bring it together and make it possible. It has a limited membership, but it's been a powerful, powerful thing. Meet 3 times a year. And Liz and I joined the third meeting back in 1982. And since, as you mentioned, I've been running it here now for a little over a decade. And happy as a pig in slop, as we say in Southern Ohio.
Well, and me too. I'm proud. If that's what you call it, I'm happy to be part of that slop, because I've met so many innovative people. Those people you're talking about, who will remain anonymous unless they choose to bring their names up, but are people who have contributed to the national policy and been what I'd call the core thinking in Republican conservatism nationwide. Bob, I'm torn with trying to make the analogy of Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump, 2 heroes in my life, but I think each coming from a different path at different times, under different political circumstances. You're right. Reagan had had adversaries of his own, but have you ever seen a president recover from such hostility and abuse as Donald Trump? Said differently, why would a guy stay in office or even try to run again who has put his not only himself, but his family and people around him in such terrible abuse, and they just don't seem to quit. Right now, even in Minneapolis, we see them claiming that ICE is a terrorist organization, when in fact Trump's just trying to get all these illegal, hostile rapists and criminals from other countries who've leaked their way into this nation. He's trying to get them out. He's not getting help from the local police authorities or the state authorities, and now he's being criticized going down the streets for trying to extricate them from where they've uncovered them, and somehow he's the villain. I don't get it.
Well, everyone needs to understand how blessed America is. America is the finest, greatest nation in the history of mankind by a factor of 20. It's the most generous nation, but our standard of living is out of all proportion. You've got that member of Congress from Minnesota, from Minneapolis, who constantly gripes and complains about our country. In her native country, before she came here, the income today, this is in 2026, the income is $331 a year. That's less than $1 a day. And she comes and gripes and complains about our country. The second richest spot on earth is Western Europe, France, Germany, Britain. In America, we have a level below which we will not permit a person to sink. You come to this country, sit down on a park bench, gripe and complain about the country. We will bury you with stamps for food, a roof over your head, unlimited health care for you and anybody you've ever met, unlimited education. A person living in poverty in America. This is the bottom. This is the people that just barely make it. Person in poverty in America. This isn't my opinion. This is the Wall Street Journal and the Heritage Foundation, the Rector study done every 24 months for now 37 years. A person living in poverty in America is more likely to have a telephone, a television, an air conditioner, an automobile, eats more meat, has more square footage space than the average resident of the second richest spot on earth, Western Europe. The poorest nation, the poorest state in America is Mississippi. The median income of a person in Mississippi is higher than every member of the European Union except 3 countries. So greater than Britain. Within 25 years ago, the European Union and the United States had the same GDP. Is now the GDP of the European Union is half of the United States. And 4 years from now, Poland will have a greater GDP than Germany. These folks have gone after this global warming nonsense, shut down all their productivity, shut down their factories, are living in poverty. So if you can make it to America, if you get here, then we immediately give you a Social Security card immediately. And if you do that, once you have that, then you can end up voting, because in places like Pennsylvania or like California, it is against the law. I'll stumble through this in case somebody misses it. It is against the law to ask a person if they're an American citizen when they're voting. Now, of course, you can't get into a movie theater. You can't buy a pack of cigarettes. You can't do it unless you have to prove ID. But if you're choosing the leadership of our country and our state under the liberal left, you cannot even ask the question. So therefore, when these people come, and let's put it in perspective, we all talk about Ellis Island. On the first day of January 1892, they opened Ellis Island. They let the people through. From 1892 until it was closed shortly before Kennedy took office under Dwight Eisenhower, during that period of time, Ellis Island brought into America 13.6 million people. That's over that entire 80-year period. Now, that's, as we know, the lowest that we believe that Joe Biden allowed to stumble in here was 13 million. It goes to 26 million. The president says 25 million. That means more people, anywhere from as many to twice as many people came to America under Biden as came during the entire time of Ellis Island. But here's what's more important. People came through Ellis Island for one purpose: to become Americans. When they came here, they wanted to speak the language, salute our flag, and accept our values. The people that, and that's the difference between legal and illegal. You know, Gene, you might be willing to rent your house for 3 years to a guy next door who you're being transferred because your company is transferring you to someplace, another part of the country for 3 years, or you're in the military, and you're being transferred for 3 years. You will sit down with a person, you'll sign a contract, and you're willing to lease your home for the 3 years that you're gone. Now, that's called a legal transaction. One thing you won't do, the one thing that nobody listening to this podcast will do, is go walk out, leave the door open, and come back 3 years later. Why? Because who comes? Not doctors, not lawyers, not entrepreneurs, not people coming for the hope of America. Trash comes. People that will come in there and rip out the sinks and the toilets. They'll come and have marijuana parties and burn out your rugs. Trash comes. There's a difference between legal and illegal. Now, who comes to the country illegally? Let me tell you, is there people just coming for it? No, they're not. A lawyer, somebody who wants to be a lawyer, somebody who wants to be a doctor, somebody who wants to be an entrepreneur, they're not going to come illegally, because if they come illegally, they can never be those things. So who comes? The drug dealers, the disabled, the people that the countries don't want them, and so they ship them here. And that's the ignorance of people that can't understand the difference between people who come and wave their own flags and trash our country versus the people who came to here to wave our flag and accept our language and our culture.
I remember my grandfather telling the story you just spoke of. My Italian grandfather, immigrant, my other grandfather, who was English and Irish, both came over and went through Ellis Island. And I remember growing up as a young boy, and I was complaining because they didn't teach Italian in the public school system. They taught Spanish and French and maybe German, but they didn't teach Italian. I made a complaint about that. My grandfather, my Italian grandfather, overheard me. Dad, I said, I want to learn Italian too. My grandfather looked over me and says, "Don't you worry about that. You just learn your English like I'm trying to." He said,
Exactly.
he said,
Exactly.
I left that behind me for a reason. It was Mussolini and that dictatorship and some of the things we fought against. And and he was so proud to be an American. He couldn't write it, but he could barely speak it. And he was proud to have saved 14 Americans in World War One, where he took a bayonet in the arm, and the German pulled the trigger, and you could see the gunshot wound right above the bayonet. And there's a man who later in life posthumously got the Purple Heart, but never saw it in his life. I'm so proud of him and my other grandfather as well. And everything you just said, these people coming over are not coming over to assimilate into America's culture. They're coming over to destroy the American way of life and to replace it with foreign ideologies, the Islamic jihad in particular, which is totally contrary to our democratic principles, not to mention our Christian faith. And Bob, I'm having trouble figuring out how the Democrats, as controversial as they might be, and different with philosophy from you and from our conservative point of view, refuse to accept the fact that they should be assimilating into our way of life. Point number one. Point number two, that they work their way into the political process like Ilhan Omar did, who is a negative net worth when she gets into office and is something north of $30 million in net worth. How many years has she been a congresswoman? And she's got $30 million out of nowhere. I think that job today is paying maybe just up to 180,000 a year with some benefits. I still don't see how you get to $30 million.
Exactly. Well, and the Democrat Party is interested in power. And so this allows them to get power when they bring these people in. And that's the difference from what America stood for. America felt that we were all created equal in God's sight. That in order to do that, it's all right there in the opening to the Declaration. We hold these truths: all men are created equal. Now that means and are endowed by their Creator, not by the group that they belong to, the union in which they're a part, or their ethnicity, or what language they speak, or what. Because God made them by their Creator, and give them three things: life, number one, then liberty. Now notice the sequence. See, liberty is a precious little value if you're dead. So you have to have life first, then liberty, then sewer systems and overpasses. But the first thing you do, and so the Democrat Party has to do first what? Number one, do away with God. Once you do away with God, there is no protection for life. And here's the thing, Gene, and for anybody who thinks about arguing with their kids or their grand, who should I vote for? Any politician who will take innocent life will not hesitate to take your liberty. And the only reason you can take innocent life is because you do not believe that there is a sacredness that God has made you. So the Democrat Party eliminated any references to God. They tried back, I forget when it was, 1988 or so, somebody on the floor wanted to add God to someplace in the platform, and they shouted it down. No, 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 no. So there's no God, and then you cannot be successful in the Democrat Party if you support life. Now, when I first went to Congress, at least a third of the pro-life votes were Catholic Democrats. And all the Northeast and those people, there are no pro-life votes left in the Democrat Party. They drove all of those people out. In fact, just as an aside, I met with some Democrat consultants. These are people who advise candidates for office in Texas. Some friends of mine set it up. These people said, we are Democrats. We believe in Democrats. He said, if we support a candidate, a Democrat candidate for office, we run their campaign, and they're running for state representative, they're running for senator or so, whatever. He said, we will be blackballed by the party. They will not let us use their consultants for polling or for advertising or for anything else. We will be frozen out because they do not want anybody in that party that believes in life. And then the next step is, once I can take your life, then I can tell you that you can't come out unless it's on a Tuesday, and you cannot buy gas unless I say so, and you got to wear toilet paper on your face, and you can all these things that because then they have all these regulations as to what kind of car you can, what kind of toilet paper you can use, what kind of water you can in the faucet and in the toilet. They can control everything because now government is supreme. Now that's what Democrats are committed to, and they need people in order to use. So they were founded on the idea, who's going to pick our cotton? And here we are 100 years later, who's going to pick our fruits? It's the same stuff. They look at it only person, not as what they can become. They immediately, you hear them say all the time, well, these are the people that change our bedpans. These are the people that, they only see people as tools. They don't see them as almighty creation of God with unique talents that if they get here and that freedom. My wife has just been diagnosed recently with cancer, and we've been going through meeting with these physicians. And of course, white males began eliminated about 3 years ago, being allowed about 30 years ago in order to get into professions. And so it's very hard to find a white male American doctor. And so these doctors are all fine people, but one of them is from Nigeria, another one is from Ethiopia. These are very talented, skilled people that when they come to America, they excel because they're given freedom. That's what makes, and yet the Democrat Party looks at those people, those are bedpan changing people, those are fruit picking people, because they see people not because God made them, but because of the power group. And so they always talk about women's rights, Hispanic rights, gay rights. They look at the group. They don't, and this country was not founded upon the group. It was founded upon the idea that all of us are given those rights and they come universally to each. And you listen to a politician for 60 seconds and you can tell where they come on both sides. So the answer to your question is, why do they do it? Because they want power that they can't get by producing a good product or by helping other people, but they can collectively use these people. So they bring them across to change the complex of America, make them dependent upon it. They'll never succeed if they're here illegally. And they know that, but they'll be dependent upon them for their supplies. And that's what we're seeing taking place in these sanctuary cities.
One of the things I think may come from this invasion of 20 plus million illegals into the United States, after Tom Homan and Kristi Noem and the rest of the team, ICE in particular, just gets the crux of the wrongdoers out of the nation, we're still left with the dilemma of so many people who are considered illegal immigrants. But many of them, I'm not giving them a pass, they're here illegally. But many of them really, with good intention, want to contribute and assimilate into America and be taxpayers to pay, not necessarily a free ride. Bob, what I'm struck with is that there's a lack of desire. They're fearful. They're not able to step up and become independent thinkers the way you're describing because of the oversight of the Democrat Party regime. My question is, what makes the Democrats think they can control this narrative with people forever? You can't control people who are begging to be free. Freedom is the foundation of that's why I call this program the GrassRoots Truthcast, because it starts from the grassroots up, not the autocratic top down. It's governance from we the people. And I think even though they may have gotten here illegally, some, not all, will realize the benefit of assimilating into a United States culture rather than remaining almost like the Stockholm syndrome. Where's my beating today? Where they need to realize at some point that this top-down mentality from the Democrat Party is not seen in the Republican Party. Footnote, how many Democrats have become Republicans? Footnote, how many Republicans have become Democrats? Yeah, it's one way, right? I mean,
Yep. Yep.
we're seeing it go. Many of them have abandoned ship. My concern, folks, we're talking with Bob McEwen. He's head of the Council for National Policy, executive director, a wonderful conservative think tank. I'm honored to have him with us here today on Grassroots Truthcast. Also, a former congressman from what was it, 1981 to 1993?
Reagan and Bush. Reagan and Bush. Yeah.
Reagan and
Yeah.
Bush,
Yeah.
yeah. You
Yeah.
caught it during an interesting time. Um, I've talked about a few things there. Why don't you just jump on whatever part of it you want? Hi, friends. Gene Valentino from My Pillow. You know, this past year has been one of the hardest in My Pillow's history. It's because of you that they are making it through, though. They want to thank you for your continued support by passing on some Christmas specials to all listeners and viewers. Did you know you can get the Children's Bible Story Pillow 5-pack for $29.98, or My Slippers with a free bottle of leather protectant spray for just $39.98? Or how about the blankets, the comforters, and the duvets for as low as $25, and a blowout sale on the standard My Pillows for just $14.98? So go to mypillow.com or call 1-800-589-4706 and use the promo code. Don't forget the promo code. Use the promo code GeneV to take advantage of these wholesale prices, including standard size My Pillow, originally $49.98, now only $14.98. The queen size, $18.99, or kings, only $1 more. We know My Pillow products come with a 10-year warranty, but My Pillow has just announced that they're extending their 60-day money-back guarantee. That's right. Orders placed between now and December 25th will have a 60-day money-back guarantee extended through March 1st, 2026. Let's get on board with My Pillow. They've been there for America. Let's get there for My Pillow.
Well, you're 100% correct in that. Here's the key difference to socialists in general and Democrats in particular. Seriously, Gene, and this isn't being antagonistic towards anyone. If you ask a Democrat how wealth is created, you will get a blank stare.
Yep.
Now they want to say we want to tax the rich and those millionaires. The speaker, the governor of Washington yesterday gave his State of the State address. We're going to have a millionaire tax. We're going to get to millionaires. And of course, it used to be that Bernie Sanders, he always talked about those millionaires, those horrible millionaires. Well, of course, he's a multimillionaire now, so he always talks about the billionaires. We need to tax the billionaires. But here's the thing about they know how to tax it, they know how to steal it, they know how to redistribute it. They would talk to redistribution. I remember when the mayor of New York, back when he was American born, de Blasio, he was running for president, and he said there's plenty of wealth in this country. The only problem is the way it's distributed. See, they know how to redistribute it. They do not know how it's made. Now let me just take a moment. It's not that complicated. There are cars going down the street out here. There's only two ways I can get money out of that car. Only two. One is that I stay awake nights figuring out a way to do something for that person that is so valuable that they'll slam on their brakes and pull in and say, you're going to wash my car and clean off the dash and sweep the carpeting. I would much rather have that than have this $20 bill. That suit, I'd much rather have that than have this $500. A global positioning said, I'll never get lost again. I'd much rather have that than have this $400. So under free enterprise, the way I get money is I bless a person to people make an exchange, which at the end of the exchange, they are both better off. Now let's stop and think about that, because I majored in economics, so I know how economics professors sell this stuff, and they're dead. They talk about how the oppressor takes advantage of the world. No. The only way I can get money under a free market is for them to freely reach in their pocket and say, what you're doing for me is more valuable than this, and they make an exchange. With the end of the exchange, they are both better off. They are both wealthier than they were. And if they're not, they don't make the exchange. That's the only way that wealth is created in America. That's why 4% of the population of the world call themselves Americans. And yet every year they write more books, more plays, more symphonies, more copyrights, more inventions than the rest of the world combined. Why? Because we're smarter than anybody else? No, because we're freer than anybody else. You take all of these people, so many of them, the head of Google, the richest man in the world, the list goes on and on. These people, they weren't born in America. Did they, when they got here, did they suddenly get smart? No, they got free. And it's that freedom that makes it what now. I said there were two ways to get money out of that car. The other is I walk over to it at the stop sign, I take out a gun, and I say, I want half of everything in your purse. Now, have we created any wealth? No. Have we redistributed? Yes, from that person to you. And here's the point. The degree to which a person benefits under that system is the degree to which the other person is diminished. No wealth is being created. Now that's called socialism. If I do it one-on-one with my gun through the window, that's called a criminal. If I get a whole crowd of people in Minneapolis and I come up and I demand it, that's called socialism. Socialism, I come and I take what you have. I stand up as governor of Washington State. I stand up as the new mayor of New York, and I'm going to take money from you. You have an apartment building. I'm going to take that apartment building away from you. And when I do that, have I redistributed wealth? Yes, but you've diminished the person. And so therefore, the person that was producing, and we can go throughout history, but the most recent would be the third richest nation in the Western Hemisphere 20 years ago was Venezuela. And when it was freed just last week by taking away the new president, it was borderline between it and Cuba as to which is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. That's what socialism does. Why? Because it doesn't create wealth. It steals the wealth from the person that created it. Therefore, the person that gets it says, well, this is great. I don't have to produce it. And the person that made it and doesn't get to keep it, he says, I'm not going to make it. And the thing collapses every time. And you have to be a Democrat, blind, deaf, and dumb, not to be able to see it.
Two questions then. How close were we in losing this nation? You can go back to the Biden administration and what's changed since then. And the second question is, why didn't more people see that the wealth was being redistributed? I don't understand. What is the deep state? I know that George Soros is the typical name brought up when you bring up the deep state, but its tentacles must have reached out so far into this nation over the decades to have created such a pervasive cancer throughout, to have gotten us to this point? Those are the two questions.
Well, let me just tell you very simply, Gene, it's not that sinister. It's just ignorance. They simply do not know. And so
well,
when I stand up,
Gen Z doesn't know, that's for sure.
The second richest per capita nation on the Western Hemisphere in January of 1959 was a place called Cuba. Number two, richer than any place. What's her name took over in Argentina, it was the fourth richest nation in the Western Hemisphere. So unless you know what makes it, then you come along and you say, see that wealth over there? You vote for me and I will give it to you. And so that's to a person who is ignorant and doesn't ask the next question. You ask a very simple question. Where are you going to get it? I'm going to give you free health care. I'm going to give you free education. I'm going to give you free housing. I'm going to give you groceries, is what this idiot this immigrant from Africa, who's now the mayor of New York City. I'm going to give you food from a grocery. And here's the thing: you need the next sentence. You need somebody to ask, where are you going to get it? And government never produces anything, Gene. Remember, government doesn't have anything. It doesn't first take from someone else. No politician can give you anything he hasn't first stolen from someone else. And the degree to which you steal it is the degree to which you make places poor. And so in answer to your question, how close are we? We are very, very close. Because people do not know how it comes about. And the day that Joe Biden became president, if you took a house, any house, you put your finger on it, that house, and take it on the day that he left office, the monthly payments, the mortgage payments for that house were twice as high as they were when he took office. Because of the increase in inflation and interest rates, it cost twice as much. So for when I was young, the average house was 3 times the annual income. Now it's 7 times. And so therefore, these people who see no hope when some idiot comes along who's never produced anything. Here's the point. Every one of these politicians, you try Omar, you take that Hayapal, the woman who didn't even come here till Obama was president of the United States. Now she's a member of Congress and head of the leftist union, whatever it's called, the Progressive Caucus. Those people, they come here, and what do they know? All they know is what they learned in Pakistan or in Ethiopia or in Indonesia. They don't know, and now the final point. And I know we have to draw this to a close. It gets back to what Thomas Jefferson was concerned about, because Thomas Jefferson felt that once people get off the farm, once they live in the city, and they don't understand where wealth comes from, they haven't produced it. And he said, when that happens, when more people are living off the farm as opposed to producing it, well, the truth of the matter is that's the situation. These people like AOC, who's grown up in a wealthy neighborhood in New York, she doesn't understand. And let me conclude with the idea of redistribution. If you're driving from Columbus, Ohio to Denver, and you go out through Iowa, and you see on both sides of the road corn, mile after mile, corn. Then you get to Nebraska, and you see on both sides of the road wheat, mile after mile. Then you break into Colorado, where it's dry and mountainous, and you get up and you tell these folks, it is terrible, it is terrible the way that corn is distributed in this country, the way that wheat is, and every farmer is going to sit there and look, you idiot, corn's not distributed, corn is grown. Wheat is not distributed, it is grown. And wealth is not distributed, wealth is created. And if you don't know where corn comes from, if you don't know where wheat comes, and you don't know where wealth comes from, then you'll vote for these people that end up taking a wealthy nation, driving it into the ground, as we see in our major cities, in Chicago and New York and elsewhere.
You have touched, folks, we're with Bob McEwen, U.S. Congressman, 6 terms, 12 years. He's currently Executive Director of Council for National Policy. Also did some advisory work on certain committees under the Trump administration, I believe. He's also become a friend of mine who has given me some great insight. Bob, one of the things where did this start, Bob? I kind of know the answer. Let me just throw it out there. Is it me? But it seems to have taken a major transformation during Barack Obama's introduction into politics. Yes or no?
Well, we
I'm not blaming it on one person. Clearly, there's a lot of factors coming in at the same time. But from a global...
I think the racism was accelerated very, very much. And what happened is that we changed the law, so it was very hard. If you were from a European nation, it's very hard to get in. If you're not, and we have this thing called the lottery. And I ask people oftentimes when I see a person that I encounter them, and you could tell they're not American and they can't speak the language. I said, were you a part of the lottery? Oh yes, the lottery. Here's what the lottery is. It was installed, and it's only been terminated recently under Donald Trump, but it's been going on for 40 years. That is, if you go to the most hellhole place in the world, a place that has no electricity and has none of the modern things, that they wouldn't even qualify as a nation to come to America. But you go to an internet cafe and you put your quarters in there, the first thing that pops up is a seal of the United States of America. And it says, become an American. And you type in your name, and so in order to, quote, have diversity. Now, what is diversity? Diversity means that we're basing you not because of your talent, not because you want to be an American, not because of the content of your character. We're doing it because of the color of your skin to create diversity. And so we bring these people who are here, who have no idea as to what America stands for, and then they are used as pawns. So the conclusion is, you see this woman on MSNBC, and she said, when we say we want to restore America, now what do we think, Gene? When we say we want to restore America, we want to be able to have our son leave his bicycle in the front yard overnight and nobody's going to steal it. We think we can leave the cars unlocked at a ballpark and the parents are coaching and think, like still in rural America. We say we want to preserve that. And every one of them immediately respond. Here's what they say. They say, oh, you're just mad because America's turning brown or America's turning black. That's the only thing they can see. See, a racist A racist cannot see anything other than skin color. And when you and I are talking about character and peace and prosperity, we're not, all they can think is, oh, you must be talking about race. And that was accelerated under Barack Obama. And
well,
that's
you started the conversation earlier with your wife going in for care. We wish her the very best, by the way. But she's going in for care, and the doctor was a foreigner, African American, or from some other race. The point is, I hope he or she is the best guy
yes,
in the world to work on your wife. I don't give a hoot whether it's black, white, or pink with yellow
and here's the
polka
whole
dots.
thing, Gene. Here's the thing. Liberals don't believe that. When you start talking, liberals believe that if you're this black doctor of ours who developed a real friendship from Nigeria, if you discuss it, they don't believe that he's that good. They don't believe that he can come here. They believe that he needs to have points added to his score. He needs to be given special privileges, and they teach those folks. They teach, and that's why all of these experts are often immigrant, because they've taught the African Americans that they're inferior because the racist left thinks that. And you take somebody like Ben Carson. Ben Carson, his mother virtually locked him in his apartment, wouldn't let him out. And he became a neurosurgeon, a person that deals with the brain. He was for small children, and of course he separated the brain. The most complicated 36 hours, the most complicated case in the history of the world, where he separated the brains of these two young people. He's a kid that grew up in Detroit, whose mother, who could not read, would often demand that he do book reports, and she would study. He didn't know that she couldn't read the book report, but because she knew that in America the opportunity was there if you lived right and did the right thing. And that's what every American needs to be taught. The left deals with power on skin color. God looks at the heart.
Amen to that, Bob McEwen. I think that's the essence. Let me pivot. You've talked about issues that drive to some fundamental concerns. We've presented the problem. We've presented some social and political concerns. So what's the solution? I ran for Congress recently. I was up against 9 other Republicans, and Donald Trump chose someone else. Yeah, my only regret in life is I wish Donald Trump got to know me better, but maybe another day. But to the point, my solution to the issues you and I have discussed today is the need for some constitutional amendments that focus on immigration, that focus on the definition of a border and how we protect it, that a definition of the voting procedure unique to a president, which we all vote for, no matter what city and county we're in the nation. There's one thing on the ballot that's common, that's the president and vice president. And I could go on with a few other things, a zero-based budgeting, balanced budget approach to Congress, term limits for congressmen and senators. I don't trust these elected officials. You were one, and I was hoping to be one, but I don't trust them, and I certainly don't like the way they're behaving on the news and the way we view them daily. It's an embarrassment to our representations that's supposed to be representing us. I would like to see a Republican president, a Republican Senate, and a Republican Congress. Not because I think it's a two-party system for a reason. I'm only asking for it for a short period of time. Hopefully we get it in the midterm elections. Hold it, I should say. Because I see the need for constitutional amendments to define what an American citizen is and what their entitlements are to voting. There is a place for government at the national level to be forthright and to be consistent with the way we are represented through all 50 states. What say you about such constitutional amendments? Because I think that's the source of we've talked about the problems. I think that's the solution.
Well, but Gene, all of that doesn't require a change in the Constitution. It just You just need to pass the law.
Yeah, but the problem is the politicians are bad behaviors. They behave poorly, and politicians come and go, and we can't trust them, Bob. We need something codified that lives after you and I are gone, and an amendment would. And my only concern is that we've witnessed. Look at Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer before Hakeem Jeffries. Oh my words, 40 years on the job? What have we got? We've got disruption to a degree that should not be there. Had they been out of office sooner, I'll take the ignorance of someone before I take complicit bad behavior, which you could allege, Nancy. I ought to call her up for some stock tips. But I mean, it's an example of what I'm trying to get to about trying to create a refinement. We have one area that the Constitution has not dealt with. It's called bad behavior. We have not policed our congressmen, men and women, and our senators the way, to the other extreme, we've gone after the president. How many times is he going to be impeached again if there's a Democrat majority in the Senate or the House? What are we in for? Is that how we have to? Where's the penalty for congressmen and women behaving badly and vexatiously going after a political opponent? Look at what's going on with Jack Smith right now for his overreach. Pam Bondi, Attorney General, she's drinking water out of a fire hose, trying to catch up with all of the indictments that are about to drop. Will it be too late? Will it be too late, or will we get some of these bad actors behind bars in our lifetime?
Well, that's a legitimate question, and that's probably why we want to talk a little bit about the fact that we were rescued by the only man that could rescue us. Yeah. And that was somebody that was willing to take the arrows and be attacked at 18. They tried to put him in jail. Everyone should read the recent book by Eric Trump, as well as Melania, and they explain how that the day he left office, they shut down over 300 accounts so that his businesses couldn't function. They couldn't pay their bills. They couldn't take in money. The banks defunded them. They were trying and shut off the credit card for the First Lady of the United States. And so they wanted to then put him in jail for 700 years and all. So they play for keeps, and only one person could have fought that long enough to where America is to now.
Isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing, Bob, that the authority they could not interrupt or interfere with, his authority abroad, especially under the Monroe Doctrine, to protect the United States here in the Western Hemisphere, the way he's prevented 7 or 8 wars from occurring, the way he's handled something that's really quite difficult, and that's the Russia-Ukraine conflict, which he admits has gone on longer than he wished it has. It has become more complicated than he thought it would be. And yet still, he has done so many things. We're talking Donald Trump, of course, but he's done so many great things to protect the nation for our grandchildren. And I pray to God that we see in our lifetime a congressional act that creates another Mount Rushmore exclusive for him, where it's just him on a slab of granite on the canyon somewhere. You pick it. I don't care. Get him up there, and let's make that an edifice that we can honor and pray to and thank for what he has done to protect this nation. No disregard to the other 4 who are wonderful heroes in their own right in a different chapter in time. But I must submit, and I think you agree, that Donald Trump has taken more arrows and has overcome. This is a historic moment in time, which is why I asked you to come on today, because I think we have seen in history a pivot that won't be recognized until after you and I are long gone. God willing, it appears in the history books. God willing, the Gen Z crowd, our grandchildren, and their grandchildren read about it in history books that shows how this nation corrected itself. Thank God for the three-legged stool of our government. Folks, we have been with Bob McEwen, U.S. Congressman under the Bush and what a Bush and Reagan administrations, um, and has been a contributor to the Trump administration. And most importantly, he's now serving as executive director for the Council of National Policy. I'll be with him in the next few weeks in California at one of the 3 events he mentioned earlier that they put on each year. I like to think of it as a conservative think tank. Bob McEwen brings to the table people from all walks of life that come into this Council of National Policy to share their insight in the protection of our democracy and conservative Christian principles, which founded this democracy. And I couldn't be prouder, Bob, to be part of your group. I know you're not out soliciting for members and so forth, but if someone wants to talk to me, Bob can't do it, but I'll do it. If,
Very
you
good.
contact me, let me put a plug in here that join us here on the GrassRoots Truthcast and become a subscriber. You get episodes like this pushed out to you once a week when we have them, and subscribe. You'll see this episode and many others, including Tom Homan, including Dinesh D'Souza, including Lee Greenwood, and oh boy, we have them coming in here from all walks of life. And I am so honored today to have Bob McEwen here. Bob, we have just, this is the tip of the iceberg. Let you have a good 3 to 5 minutes of final summary thoughts on what you think the future of America looks like in the wake of Donald Trump coming back from Davos, Switzerland today.
Well, it just has to do with leadership. The country was flat on its back. And in 1980, said the question is not whether or not the head of the Council of Economic Advisors, our chief cheerleader, he said the question is not whether or not America will have a declining standard of living in the 1980s. The question is whether or not Americans can learn to adapt to their declining standard of living. We had gas lines. Now, this nation today, at this moment, we have, you judge natural gas 0 to 20, 0 to 50, 50 to 100, and then plus 100. You can't, over 100-year supply, you can't measure that. America has over 100-year supply of natural gas. And when Jimmy Carter put out an executive order, you had to shut them all off. You had lights that were used, people in their homes, people with street lights were natural gas. He destroyed it. We had 2,700 acres in Ohio under glass. The natural gas heated these flower boxes and the vegetables that were growing there. He wouldn't even give them 72 hours to switch to something else. Why? Because we were running out. We were at the end. We're coming to the very end. So with gas lines and 18% and 22% interest rates, the country was falling apart. The head of the African Union, they formed it, is now called the African Conference. The first speaker was the president of the Soviet Union, Leonid Brezhnev. He said, by the end of this decade, that's the 1980s, he said, we, the Soviet Union, will be able to work our will any place on the planet because the correlation of forces, economic, military, and political, are on the side of socialism and communism. That's what America was. And on election night, Ronald Reagan went on television. He said, there's nothing wrong with this country that proper leadership can't cure. And the nation chose him as a leader. And by the end of that decade, by 1989, not only had 2 out of every 3 jobs created on this planet were created in one country, the United States of America, but the entire world was chanting USA, USA, USA. That's what leadership means. Now, Donald Trump made an agreement with Gaza in the Strip where they were killing the Jews, and he was able to get people to agree to a peace treaty. He flies to Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. He flies there and is on the ground for 3 hours and 20 minutes. And just because he goes there to sign this document, over 36 heads of state, including the Prime Minister of Great Britain, the President of France, the President of the fourth largest nation, the largest Muslim nation on earth, Indonesia, the President of Pakistan, these people come not to say anything, not to sign anything, not to do anything, but just because the president of the most powerful, most wonderful nation on earth is there, they run just to be close, just to stand there and watch him, and then get in their planes and fly home. That's what power is about. 18 months ago, we had a man that would fight his folding chair on the beach, and people wouldn't even stop and look at him. Why walk right past him? That man was president of the United States, and nobody cared. But America is back because this man knows how to do things. Azerbaijan, Muslims have been killing our Christian Armenians for 31 years. And so Donald Trump says, we're going to resolve this situation about people ripping us off. Everybody gets a 25% tariff on anything they sell to us, unless you come and tell us why we shouldn't do it. So Armenians and the Azerbaijan's running, they said, we want to agree. He says, you guys are killing each other. Why do we have to mess with you? He said, well, we'll quit that. And so he signs, they get an agreement. When they did it in the East Room, they're on both ends of the East Room. In fact, he made a reference to it just the other day. They barely talked to each other. They started talking, then they started leaning across Trump, talking to each other. In the end, they signed the agreement. They're hugging each other at the end of the event. The end of the war, the one of them they had not spoken for 19 years. They've been in this battle, but Donald Trump is changing the direction of America. That means, what's the difference? Leadership makes the difference. The Democrat Party wants a nation that's weak and stumbling. They want to take people from around the world, such as the Congresswoman in Minnesota, the Congresswoman in Seattle, the mayor of New York, bring people from around the world who don't know America, who don't understand America, who don't love America, and they want them to take this country down and make China and the others supreme. The United States is turned a corner because of the leadership, and you and I determine whether or not that succeeds.
I pray that these people realize assimilating into the culture of what our democracy, of our constitutional republic is all about, really it does not deny them their freedoms. They still practice their faith and anything else they want, so long as it's not an insurrection. I pray that they assimilate like my grandfather and your grandfather did into this nation, because it's worked. When are they going to wake up? It's the longest standing governance on the planet Earth. And we're celebrating this year 250 years. Hello. I mean, it didn't just happen. It happened because we, like you just said, we gave an entitlement to all of them to speak their mind freely. That doesn't mean they get to take over our government and control us unilaterally from the top down. Everything you've said, Bob McEwen, is the reason why I hoped we'd have a successful conversation today on Gene Valentino's GrassRoots Truthcast. Sir, you did it, and I'm grateful to be part of the Council for National Policy. Folks, Bob McEwen's with me, Executive Director of the Council of National Policy. They're in Washington, D.C. Look them up. What's the website, Bob?
Well, it's cnp.org, CFNP, Council for National Policy .org. But basically, the membership is they used to say about a person who owned a Packard. Ask the man who drives one. Well, CNP, you ask the man who is one. And if they're interested in attending sometime, why, all they need to do is contact you, Gene, and we'll take care of it.
Contact me, folks. I'd gladly introduce you to the right people. CNP's proud of the focus they want to retain, and maintain, and grow. It's really what I consider some of the root inspiration for many of the conservative thinking that exists in the United States today in several circles, not just the elected folks themselves. Bob McEwen, thank you for joining me here today on the GrassRoots Truthcast. Bob also contributes with me on Newsmax, and I'm very proud to see him on Newsmax from time to time. We both share a contributory role there, and it's been a lot of fun getting our conservative points of view out to the nation. And so, Bob, thank you for being with us today, and I'll see you soon in California.
The honor is mine. Thank you, Gene, very much.
Thank you, sir. And thank all of you for joining us here today on another episode of Gene Valentino's Grassroots Truthcast. Subscribe, won't you please? www.genevalentino.com or grassrootstruthcast.com. Subscribe there, and we'll push out these episodes weekly and get you in touch with leading conservative thinkers in the think tank of what will save America. Thanks for joining us on the Grassroots Truthcast. See you soon. Hi, friends. Gene Valentino for MyPillow. You know, this past year has been one of the hardest in MyPillow's history. It's because of you that they are making it through, though. They want to thank you for your continued support by passing on some Christmas specials to all listeners and viewers. Did you know you can get the Children's Bible Story Pillow 5-pack for $29.98? Or My Slippers with a free bottle of leather protectant spray for just $39.98? Or how about the blankets, the comforters, and the duvets for as low as $25, and a blowout sale on the standard My Pillows for just $14.98? So go to mypillow.com or call 1-800-589-4706 and use the promo code. Don't forget the promo code. Use the promo code GeneV to take advantage of these wholesale prices, including standard size My Pillow, originally $49.98, now only $14.98. The queen size, $18.99, or kings, only $1 more. We know MyPillow products come with a 10-year warranty, but MyPillow has just announced that they're extending their 60-day money-back guarantee. That's right. Orders placed between now and December 25th will have a 60-day money-back guarantee extended through March 1st, 2026. Let's get on board with MyPillow. They've been there for America. Let's get there for MyPillow.